uncorrelated with the motions of his hands. This is the chart recording of the magnetometer fluctuations produced by Geller. We see here full-scale fluctuations of 3/10 of a Gauss, which is a significant magnetic field, comparable to the Earth's field. After each of these experiments, we would in general discuss the results with Geller, show him the strip chart recording, and talk about the significance of his experiments. He was very interested in the experiments we were doing because he had never taken part in laboratory experiments of this kind before. The following is an experiment which in retrospect we consider unsatisfactory, as it didn't meet our protocol standards. Here the task is to deflect the compass needle, which indeed Geller does. Before and after the experiment, he was gone over with a magnetometer probe, and his hands were photographed from above and below during and following the experiment, so that we are sure there were no obvious pieces of metal or magnets in his possession. However, according to our protocol, if we could in any way debunk the experiment and produce the effects by any other means, then that experiment was considered null and void, even if there were no indications that anything untoward happened. In this case, we found later that these types of deflections could be produced by a small piece of metal, so small in fact that they could not be detected by the magnetometer. Therefore, even though we had no evidence of this, we still considered the experiment inconclusive and an unsatisfactory type of experiment altogether. A look at the lower mirror affords one the best view. It can be seen that his hands are completely exposed to photography from above and below with different cameras. These are a series of unconfirmed physical effects that need further investigation. One of Geller's main attributes that had been reported to us was that he was able to bend metal from a distance without touching it. In the laboratory, we did not find him able to do so. In a more relaxed protocol, he was permitted to touch the metal, in which case, as you will see in the film, the metal is indeed bent. However, it becomes clear in watching this demonstration on film that simple photo interpretation is insufficient to determine whether the metal is bent by normal or paranormal means. In the laboratory, these spoon bending experiments were continuously filmed and videotaped. It is evident that sometime during the photographic period, this stainless steel spoon became bent. However, unlike the things we have heard about Geller, it was always necessary for him in the experimental situation to have physical contact with the spoon, or for that matter, any other object that he bent. It is not clear whether the spoon is being bent because he has extraordinarily strong fingers and good control of micromanipulatory movements, or whether, in fact, the spoon turns to plastic in his hands as he claims. Here are a number of the spoons that were bent by one means or another during the course of our experiments. There is no doubt that the spoons were bent. The only doubt remains as to the manner of their bending. Similarly, we have rings that were bent by Mr. Geller. The rings that were bent are shown here. The copper ring at the left and the brass ring at the right were manufactured at SRI and measured to require 150 pounds force to bend them. These rings were in Geller's hand at the time they were bent. This brief recap is to remind you of those experiments we feel were best controlled. They are the 3 perception experiments, including the hidden drawings in envelopes, the double-blind hidden object experiments, and the double-blind die-in-the-box experiment. The 2 psychokinetic experiments, the depression or raising of a weight on an electrical scale, and the deflection of the magnetometer, also do not seem to admit of any ready counter-hypothesis. What we've demonstrated here are the experiments that we performed in the laboratory and should not be interpreted as proof of psychic functioning. Indeed, a film never proves anything. Rather, this film gives us the opportunity to share with the viewer observations of phenomena that in our estimation clearly deserve further study.